Welcome to the English translation of Could Not Be Hacked So Far. The electronic patient record is coming now for everybody by Bianca, Kastl and Martin Tschirsich. Live from the 38C3. All talks at Congress are live translated between English and German and to one additional language. We appreciate your feedback. Please use the hashtag C3Lingo. Your translators for this talk are Athena, Snowborn and Nina. So, I welcome Martin and Bianca to the stage. They are working on this topic for quite some time already, and today they'll present some updates. So, a warm welcome and applause.
Yeah, hello.
Greetings, Hamburg. Welcome to Could Not Be Hacked So Far. The electronic patient record is coming now for everybody. It's a bit about older problems, about what happened in the last years, and how this affects the electronic patient record for everyone. Martin and I are doing this topic about digital health a bit longer. This quote could not be hacked so far. This is a quote from Karl Lauterbach, the health minister, when this was decided. And this talk is not actually that technical, because lots of these things can be explained with some non-technical metaphors. I'm Bianca, this is Martin, and we're here again after a few Congress talks, and we are also talking about this at the Parliament with different committees, and we are once again here to talk about some problems, so that's not a good sign for what's to come. And we should probably specify what we are talking about precisely. So we're talking about the electronic patient record for everyone. And this electronic patient record for everyone, because it is using an opt-out mechanism on the entire population. But you can disagree with this, that it will be created, and you can disagree that certain entities will get access. So you can opt out of different aspects of this electronic patient record. On the 15th of January, let's see, it will be rolled out in test regions like Hamburg and some parts of North Rhine-Westphalia. And about those tests, in those regions there will be certain doctors and other participants in the health system which will take part in this test. And on 1 month later, on the 15th of February, this will be rolled out Germany-wide. This is the version 3.0 of the electronic patient record. The first record came in the year 2020. Martin was at 36C3 and talked about some findings, which we will get back to later. Then there was version 2.6, which will be migrated to version 3.0. And what's going to be inside? Of course, things like the electronic prescriptions, the information inside those prescriptions, which ones were handed out, doctor's letters, and there might be image data. In the beginning, those are just PDFs. And some more data that is being transmitted by the health insurers. That's a large project with a lot of data, with an opt-out mechanism. And now let's get into the technical aspects.
Genau, schauen wir uns doch mal an, zusammen, was diese elektronische Patientenakte ist, und beginnen wir mal bei uns. Das ist immer am einfachsten. Wir, das sind Versicherte, Krankenversicherte, gesetzlich, aber auch privat. Bei den Privaten ist es tatsächlich eine freiwillige Angelegenheit. Bei den Gesetzlichen ist es ein Opt-out. Wer nichts tut, hat so eine Akte ab nächstem Jahr. Und hier als Patientinnen bezeichnet, da stehen wir in der Ecke und halten eine Gesundheitskarte in der Hand oder eine App, Smartphone. Und das ist unser Zugangsschlüssel zu dieser elektronischen Patientenakte. Über eine App, wenn ich mich dort mit einer digitalen Identität registriert habe, kann ich diese Akte auch schön verwalten. Derzeit sind 1% aller Nutzer tatsächlich mit so einer App ausgestattet und einer digitalen Gesundheits-ID, die das ermöglicht. Vielleicht werden es noch ein paar mehr. Die große Masse wird über die Gesundheitskarte, diese elektronische Patientenakte, freigeben. Und zwar immer dann, wenn Patientinnen und Patienten zum Arzt, zum Krankenhaus, in eine Pflegeeinrichtung, in eine Gesundheitsinstitution gehen, dann stecken wir dort.
Okay, so every time if we look into a health center, we put our card into a card reader, where we have a similar card that authenticates the health institution and shares or liberates the data. And then the health institution has access for 90 days to the health data to the patient who just came into the institution. So we put that into the reader, thereby approve 90 days of access to the data for all the data that has been included or has not been especially marked to be hidden. So we also have a research data center to where additional data is being shared. That includes all payments and health data. And we also have the health insurances, either public or private, which also have access to that data. We have a person with a tie here, but those institutions can only write data. What we have above that is technical infrastructure. We have an identity provider, the metadata holding storage, and the trust space for the entire network that we are looking at. And this is going to be very complex. We have about 100 public health insurers, and all of these insurances issues those physical cards, and also the infrastructure, including the keys to the registries. We have the Gematik, the German institution, public institution, which is providing the health institution IDs, for example, local doctors.
Die gesetzlich oder die, Kassenärzte oder Kassenarztpraxen, Praxissitze mit Identitäten versehen, also Zugangskarten zu diesem System.
Then we have the institutions which provide access cards to the health service providers.
Praxen, die Kassensitze haben. Und dann haben wir natürlich auch noch ganz am Ende.
And of course, in the end, we have all other providers for the meta records, which induce symmetric keys. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Those are usually central keys for the entire system. Which should become clear is that it's a very complex system, not only us and the service providers and the health insurance institutions have access, but the entire trust space is playing a vital part, and we have more than 100 participants in this system.
Gut, damit wir ein bisschen besser verstehen, was wir
Well, to look a little bit more, to understand a little bit better what we're going to look into,
und auf dem Kongress.
we should do a little recap of what we did in the past. On the 3633, we showed
Man kann da bestimmte Teile mit den Herausgabeprozessen von Karten und Vertrauensdiensten
there's several parts in this entire process that can be attacked
Art und Weise
in more social engineering, some kind of forms, gathering information
anzustoßen, hat dann eben unter
to trigger those processes
Zugriff auf
and get access to those kind of information, institutions,
Patientenakte.
and data they shared.
Details, aber vielleicht noch mal kurz Martin.
More to the details. Martin again.
Wir haben uns unter anderem Konnektoren bestellt.
Yes, we ordered connectors.
Geräte,
Here you can see the different parts
deutschlandweite Netz angeschlossen zu werden.
to the Germany-wide VPN network, but we could also acquire identities for the
auch Gesundheitskarten und
local doctors,
auf den Namen Dritter.
also the health insurance
Sehr einfach.
cards, and could easily attack.
Unter anderem
And several of those attacks have already been known since 2002, like ordering health insurance cards in the name of other patients,
demonstriert wieder und wieder.
and demonstrated that again and again and again.
36c3 haben wir das erneut demonstriert und auch die Praxisidentitäten.
And we can also order the health insurance providers, the local ones.
And how much effort was it? Well, at most an hour.
Eine E-Mail absenden.
It was one phone call or one email, and then we had a key to patient records remote on our home PC, wherever it was.
Zugriff auf eine Patientenakte.
And we had full access to a patient record.
Auf denen diese Praxis Zugriff hatte.
All records that this doctor's office had access to.
Wie groß der Patientenstamm ist dieser Praxis und wie viele
That can be thousands or more, depending on how many patients this office had.
Gibt es natürlich Dinge, die zwischendrin auch passiert sind nach dem 6.
Then other things happened afterwards, after 36C3.
Die Telematikinfrastruktur ist vielleicht an den Endpunkten etwas offen und da waren die Konnektoren falsch herum.
Yeah, we saw that endpoints of this network were compromisable.
dass sehr Sektoren, die ich hier gerade gezeigt habe, also die
So
dieses Netz falsch
already back then it has been demonstrated that the connectors, so the entrance points into the systems, are configured exactly the wrong way, so that you can access everything that is shared with this doctor's office from the open internet.
Tag.
Genau.
How long did it take? Well, again, a day.
Was vor der Veröffentlichung der EPA 1.0 sehr verantwortungsbewusst disclosed wurde.
So this was disclosed responsibly before EPA 1.0. So, but it's been known for a while.
Telematikinfrastruktur, unsachgemäße Installation, keine also nicht die Technik, sondern
It was not a fault of the hardware itself, but of the usage. It was configured in the wrong way.
wieder
But
Akten, die für eine Leistungserbringinstitution freigegeben waren.
again, this enabled full access to
Künstler gegangen.
the data of one doctor's office.
So, um die Zwischenzeiträume ein bisschen zu füllen bis zur EPA für alle.
What did we do afterwards? To
Wie werden denn diese digitalen Identitäten
we
ausgegeben?
looked at the digital identity, so
Diese Zugänge zu
that's handed to the patients,
alle möglichen
and that provided us access keys to the insurances, which gives
29 der 30
us access to everything.
auf Ident verzichtet. Da kann man einfach
For identity, most of them used video ident, but one insurance provider didn't at all. We could just call them.
und dann
Here you see how we scan our
eine Art Augment
ID
der Kamera gezaubert
and
Zugang zu einer elektronischen Patientenakte eröffnet.
Ja.
got access to one electronic patient record.
Aber wie aufwendig war es wahrscheinlich?
Naja, der erste
How much effort was this? Well, about a week of preparation time for the first time, but then the second attack would have been easy, maximum 1 day, and everything remote.
ist ja remote durchführbar.
Because of the video ident, we can do it at home, and it provides complete access to one patient record.
Dieser Angriff, das BSI hat das schon einmal
So this has been known since 2017. The BSE has demonstrated the same thing for bank accounts, but now we used the same principle. It has been
Okay.
shut off
Die Frage, warum erzählen euch diese ganzen
because the Data Protection Office
in gewisser
ordered
Art und
it.
Weise wiederholen? Wir zeigen euch jetzt ein paar Sachen aus dem Stand von circa Mitte Dezember 2024.
So now we'll show you some things from mid-December 2024. Of course, we responsibly communicated these findings, and some reactions were faster, some weren't, as we already announced. And this is just a list of things that were possible mid-2024. 15th of January, start of the electronic patient record for everyone. But yeah, quite curious how many things we were able to find. We have to add that this was titled as one of the largest IT projects of the Federal Republic by Florian Fuhrmann, who works for the German National Health Operating Company. And he compared this to a basketball game, where it's now in the last quarter and now it is crunch time, so that the digitalization of our health system can now go forward. Let's see if these sports comparisons are actually a good idea here. Susanne Otzikowski meant that this electronic patient record is the most secure in Europe, in the form that it will arrive on the 15th of January. And maybe you can guess, since we're adding this quote here, that this might not be entirely true and that we found some things we could use to attack it. Let's start easy, a classic. Or maybe not. Who of you knows SQL injection? A few. So for the younger folks here, back then you had to be careful about what code you put into some forms to avoid it being exceeded in the database. And it seems this still exists. So the only thing that has been changed are the actual values. The actual statement is directly how it was used by a card issuer portal. So what I was able to do, I could just write SQL statements by just typing them. And with this particular card issuer portal of a card issuer, I was able to iterate members. So I could just change the member's number, the health insurance number. What you can also do, this is an MD5 hash of a password. So we were able to get the cards that represent a health practice or its members, or even create new ones. And what did we do with those cards? Well, with those, as a service provider, you have access to everything that a service provider has access to. So the data, you can change or view data of a doctor who has access to the electronic patient record. And this is doable remotely. And you have all of the editing rights that a doctor has. You can do all those actions. This has been known for a while, and over the years we regularly were able to prove this, but oh well. And just to give some context, how much patient contact does a service provider even have in 90 days? Approximately 1,000. General practitioners have a bit more patients. Particular doctors have a bit fewer, but it's still a few hundred to over 1,000. So you do get access to much more than just one record. And this is access to approximately 1,000 records at once. So this is just like a modified WordPress MD5 hash. So if we just want to access one patient record, our own, that is a very complicated matter. So you have video identification, different authorizations, and for some time it was forbidden to use biometrics as a second factor because it was too insecure. And now here we have just an MD5 hash. So these huge differences in the security architecture, those are a recurring theme. So now we have to go up in the scale a little bit, but for attackers this would be very valuable to do this, because now this is about central services in the telematics infrastructure, about the records service, about the health insurance members, and this allows you to get access.
Okay, Martin's going to explain the details now. All right, we have a complicated slide. Don't look at the slide now. Go one step back. With the first patient record, we are now at the third EPA actually. We had a physical card and a PIN. So please raise your hand who has a card for your PIN. Only a few hands go up. About 1% of Germans have one. In this room, maybe we even have 2%. This PIN and the health record, health card together enable us to provide access to the systems that we have there at the doctors. I have to do that to show that I'm actually eligible for services, and I can do that on site. And now people thought, oh, let's just leave the PIN out. So to make it easier, especially if I want to go to an opt-out, then can I not send everybody a PIN via mail home after they had an ident process already. So this physical card, just putting it in, already means that I'm eligible for the service, and that means that the doctor has access to that data for 90 days. That's a so-called proof of the service context.
Im Behandlungskontext, also wenn ich nachweisen kann, da liegt auch eine Gesundheitskarte vor, dann darf die Arztpraxis auf diese.
So if the service card is provided, then the doctor can actually access all this data. So how does this actually work now? There's a physical chip on the card, the processor card, and a lot of private key certificates and stuff on there. And we also have an ICCSN, a card number. And according to this card number, we have a property which identifies this card. But this ID is actually a part in many files in the card. So once in the certificate, there's a private key to that as well, which I cannot actually get off the card, which ensures cryptographically that it's a physical card and the correct one. And this means that the ICCSN, which is inside the certificate, is really the card that has been printed physically onto the card. And then there's a second place where I can find this data. That's a file, which is called EFGDO, Global Data Object. That one is neither certified nor confirmed. And with this ICCSN, I can go to the service, to the metadata access, and I get back as a confirmation. And with that approval, I get the data back from the service. So what is actually being sent? No, it's actually checking this data from the unsecure file, not the secure file. And where can I attack it? Well, a lot of places. For once, I can do a SOAP call to the service. The only parameter in this call is the ICCSN, which I can just imagine by myself. The only thing is that I have to get this connector under my control or the connection into the VPN, because the connector is like a firewall between me and this update flag for service. But that's not a problem. Flipke did that and estimates that to be about a week of effort if I directly connect to the service. maybe roughly a few days. If I have a vertical car terminal, which I have behind the connector, which is running a man-in-the-middle attack with this ICCSN, that's going to cost me like 1 to 2 months. Which I can also do is that I just put the card in there, but one with a manipulated GDO data. Those are also commercially available. And then I'm in. Well, little mistake, big impact. So we can see that here visualized. We actually proved everything that we claim here. We had a terminal with which we read all those ICSSN. We also actually generated the proof for all these numbers, but only in a reference environment, because that's only going to be in real life coming soon. So we couldn't do that yet. And all these things are literally iterated. So you can just always add one and you're going to get the next patient record. So if you just look at the first 5 digits from the German health system, and then if you take the number and then looking at how big the health insurance provider is, you're actually going to get millions of records. So there's a big chance that you're actually going to hit one of those records. And the interesting part is, we were wondered if somebody actually noticed this. Well, the audience here already noticed that insecurity very quickly, and knowing the grammatic, if you take the ICCSN, that derivates slightly different from what's in the car, then the specification states that it's different. But still, even though it's not the easily errors in this, it has been approved to be used in production. What makes it interesting is that we did it differently the year before, because we had that as part of the e-health card links. So we had 2 different methods. The one is being validated, the other one is not. Especially the year before, we had that in the specification, which had actually covered this, but it has not been implemented in the system right now. So if you're going to do a month an attack, it's going to take about a month, which is going to be easy to implement.
Ermöglicht Vollzugriff auf
When we mean all APIs, when we say all APIs, we mean all APIs.
mit eben der Leistungsinstitution, den Rechten, die diese Institution hat, mit dem
With the
anmeldet.
rights that this service provider that I used to connect myself has, we need the identity of a service provider, but then we get full access. So we need this SCB number that we just showed you that we got with our SQL injection. So, but maybe we can do it even easier.
Genau. Deswegen haben wir uns angeschaut, gibt es da vielleicht einen Weg, der uns allen offen steht.
Now we looked if there was a way that is open to everybody, also honest people. What else is there?
Wobei wir haben jetzt gelernt, wenn ich ein Passwort
We learned
finde, zum Beispiel
if
das nehme und eingebe,
I'm finding a password somewhere publicly, for example in source code, then it's still illegal. We learned the last talk.
eine bestimmte Standardkonfiguration und konnten übers Internet auf.
So we found certain credentials that we could use publicly via the internet, but we disclosed this responsibly.
Und dann findet man endlos.
We can just type doctor's office in any search engine and find multiple health services, and most of them are protected really badly, so we can just look at the IT systems and we can just reuse their IT connector SMCB. So is there an easier way still? I don't know, but we'll look at this. It's remote, complete access for all EPAs given to the service provider. All this was responsibly disclosed.
Und jetzt ist aber die Frage, naja, also irgendwie Remote-Zugriff, vielleicht möchte man das doch irgendwie in die Hand nehmen. Ja.
Genau. Wir haben uns noch einen Weg.
So we found another way that we already knew. So I just need to grab my telephone, and I looked at how do I even get the electronic health card. So this is the token to access the electronic patient record for one patient. And as we demonstrated 2014, 15, 16, 17, 17 again, and 19, and also in 2012, these are not safe. And it's almost a yearly ritual to order an electronic health insurance card, but not your own. Of course, with their consent. I don't know how you do it, but well, if you if you order them yearly. So we did that once again, and this time we had to do 2 calls, 5 minutes each, and then they came home. So these days we don't need the PIN anymore, so there was no identification. And this is the security token for the electronic health record. So we just take the card and we have access. It takes about 20 minutes and you have delete and read access. Did anyone ever notice that this is something that needs to be fixed? And Karl Lauterbach won't like this. So the data protection officer noticed in 2012 that this is a problem and that there needs to be an identification step when using the electronic health insurance card to access the health data. And Ulrich Kelber, the data protection officer, he said that already and he hit the nail on the head. So now we are a random patient that we chose, but maybe we need some more, like an SNCB. Where can you find something like this?
Ja, weiß ich nicht. Internet irgendwo, ne? eBay?
Maybe on eBay? No, on Craigslist.
Kleinanzeigen, genau. Kleinanzeigen.
Yeah, on the German version of Craigslist, Kleinanzeigen.
Nein, wir haben
No, we ordered card terminals.
Orga 6141, gute Teile, haben sehr viele
Orga 6141, very good hardware. They have a few slots for health insurance cards or service provider authentication cards and for the SMCB.
Und haben dann auch ein paar SMCB frei Haus geliefert bekommen. Teilweise.
So we just ordered a few and we just got them sent to our home. Some of them even sealed in their original packaging, including the pins, including the pins that you need to access. And if you ask nicely via the chat, then you would also get the pin to, you know, get the most out of your used hardware.
Genau, was wir gemacht haben, wir haben die dann mal in so eine Karte eingelassen, also diese
So we
kleine Dinger.
just put that into the card, and if you prepare them, then you can put them in a regular old card terminal. Not just that, but if German Craigslist is such a good hacker tool, let's see what else we can find. So, as a service provider, we looked at a few entries there. So some doctors had problems, and of course we offered our help, and we got remote access to the doctor's office's IT infrastructure.
So, wie lange dauert so eine Internetrecherche? Naja, 4 Stunden.
How long does this internet research take? Maybe 4 hours?
Ein bisschen hakelig oder so, aber
Yeah. So The response time on Kleinanzeigen, the German Praxis, is not always ideal, but you can get access to all of the electronic patient records associated with this service provider's ID. And, well, this should be enough, right? Yeah, so now we really have everything we need to access all electronic patient records. So, what's our conclusion here? First of all, we can show this picture. So all the spots marked in red we looked at. So we got the identity of the patients, we got the identities of the service providers, be it from the outside via configuration and IT or used market or IT support. And so through this we were also able to compromise the portals of the card issuers. And with all of this together, we really had everything we need to access any patient record from anyone. All 70 million of them.
So.
Because all the timelines might have been a little bit confusing, we've made an additional overview what happened during and after 36C3. We had compromised the patient and the service provider level, and now we have also exploit in the central and zoned master register.
Früher wurde gesagt, naja, die EPA ist sicher, deswegen nutzt sie niemand.
Earlier, the narrative was EPA is too secure, so this is the reason that people are not using it. But now, because of EPA for all, we have a lot higher risk level here. So one error can be responsible for the data loss for all 70 million people that do not withdraw their consent in the opt-out model. So this will lead to a loss of trust in the digital health system. And this is bad because we all have an interest in a working digital health system. So we try to help with this. We've seen a lot of symptoms, and in a yearly succession, these errors have been repeatedly found. So when can we finally have an EPA that is secure? When one tries to understand the system, it's very complex. 100 insurances, card providers, and we have only shown now scenarios with external attackers who do not have an interior knowledge and access to the system.
GPT, also auf diesem Wege daran zu kommen, aber auch das in der Größe nicht durchdringen. Genau. Was leiten wir daraus ab? Also,
what do we conclude from this? We have only scratched at the surface, but now we reflected what could be our demands to politics. What do we need to regain trust in the system? We need, that is the most important demand, we need independent and reliable assessment of the risks within the system. This cannot be done by Gematik. This has to be done by an independent agency.
Dann muss das kommuniziert werden, was hier als Entscheidung, als Risiko
there needs to be transparent communication about the risks that have the risks that are in the system towards the users.
Braucht es einen anderen Prozess,
and last, it needs a different process so that we can arrive at a different result. Because we've seen with the current process over and over again that it leads to insecure results. And we need this for the whole life cycle of the patient record.
Ja, was wir aber gleich dazu sagen sollten, weil vielleicht irgendwelche Leute dann wieder auf die Ideen kommen, dass
So what we should add,
ich glaube, wir brauchen eine sinnvolle digitale staatliche Lösung, die
we need a public infrastructure for digital health.
lassen. Wir merken, dass diese intransparenten Risikobetrachtungen im digitalen Gesundheitswesen Vertrauen zerstören. Ja, es geht dann wieder dazu.
Again, we see that this intransparency destroys trust in public health.
An Menschen mit psychischen Erkrankungen, denkt an Menschen, die irgendwie häuslicher Gewalt ausgesetzt sind.
People that
So groups which could specifically profit from the EPA are actually not going to use that. They will have access to the services overall, but they have a higher demand or need for security and safety, which is not being provided by this. We only show what has been broken in the system, but it's not really worth the trust and does not really provide trust into the system. That's the situation that we're currently in. And without change of the process overall, we will not come to a different result. But we tell that again and again, but at some point actually becomes boring. Sorry for that. So therefore, we should have a reliable and trustworthy solution for all kinds of security demands. So we have different people who have different requirement and need for privacy and secure solutions. And also at the moment, the process that we have is just putting a card into a reader is not really sufficient. We here at the moment really stating the problems again. Is it not that somebody already stated those in the past? Alena Büchs, the former chair of the German Ethics Council, actually stated that we need to find solutions that make everybody happy and make it happy, that everybody becomes happy. Also, we have Susanna Ogrodzki, who said herself that security is paramount for the patient register and for the trust of people into the patient register. She's part of the National Ministry of Health in Germany. Let's see where we'll be in a few months, in a few years. Hopefully not on the stage because it improved, but maybe it might stay the same. Let's have a look. And maybe one final statement to conclude. Trustworthy infrastructure is what we need, and a trustworthy process is that what we need in order for that to be trustworthy. But for that, we need a trustworthy process that enables trust, and the trust has been lost somewhere along the way and has to be earned back in a hard way, and we don't lose hope. So, with these words, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin and Bianca. It was a pleasure. again. I have to ask for your pardon. It wasn't the 32nd, but 36. C3, we have roughly 50 minutes left for questions. You asked in the beginning, there was a voluntary engagement. So all of this has been voluntary engagement, not paid, and that is really impressive.
Das führt nämlich dazu, dass wir
This leads to
als Ehrenamt, sei es Rotes Kreuz, sei es sonst wo, aber eben auch als IT-Spezialist,
that even as IT specialists, we can do voluntary engagements which are beneficial for society as a whole, and that's really, really nice. So let's get to the questions. If you have questions, please go to the microphones or send them to Signal Angel if you're participating online.
auch noch welche auf den Rängen. Winkt mal jemand, wenn dem so ist.
There are also some more microphones on the upper echelons. Some people are waving from the microphones. So let's take one microphone at a time. Signal Angel already has a question. Microphone 1. So you show the big overview, and in which parts of the big overview you actually poked and got information. The health insurances were not part of that. Do we still have to look forward to some more of that? The health insurance providers can use the data that has been provided by them as of Article 25 of the Health Insurance Act. Sorry for legalese. They can use the billing data to evaluate certain health profiles or sicknesses. You can already opt out from that, but the first level of that is something that the health insurance provider can get insights to. What happens politically is a decision that you can proclaim during the election or as a preparation for the election when you ask your candidates what they think about that and how that should be handled in the future and how they think it should be handled. But you don't have a way to access that yet, do you? The health insurance providers, they give out the health insurance cards that has been attackable in the past and is going to be attackable in the future. And that means we have to live with the problem that the process is not going to be very secure and cannot be secure if we don't implement the conclusions. But that also means the health insurance providers also provide some of those databases themselves, but they usually only have writing access. Even with those kind of cards and the identity cards.
Sollte man vielleicht noch mal hervorheben.
Das Internet hat eine Frage.
The internet has a question, please. What would be your recommendation for the average patient, and how can you opt out of the electronic health record? So you can do a complete opt-out and then later opt in again, or I revoke my opt-out, and you can accept it and just opt out of particular services, but we cannot give a general recommendation because some patients might really profit from this and some others might have very high requirements for the security, and some might not want friends or family to be able to access this because that's within reach within the 4 hours of effort you need. So you can opt out and you can take back the opt-out at any time, but you have to decide that for yourself. Microphone 2. Were you able to find a reason why there is a static ID instead of the signed ID? Is that fixable without changing the specification? Well, when it comes to the management of the insurance member records, well, this is grown historically. This originally was only a proof for checking that the doctor has updated the patient data, and later then this additional use case was introduced. So starting in 2026, there might be the first service which will do this correctly.
Problem für future IT.
Well, that's a problem for the future IT. Microphone number 3, please. So over the years, you communicated with the ones responsible. How do you view this communication? What's working? What's not working? How genuine is this communication? What is motivating you to continue working on this? And where are you running into walls or hurdles? Well, we talked to people beforehand and informed them what's coming, and the way that the Gematik takes these processes in, that's friendly, how you would expect, but there are some political aspects here that brings the Gematik into a particular spot where they have to fulfill some political requirements, for example, that data is so valuable and needs to be shared. And then politically it's said that this needs to go online on a certain date, and even if the Gematik would say there are some issues we need to fix first, some security issues, then they just have limited ways to remedy this. If you rephrase this, all of the ones who we work together with, especially also those at the Gematik, they are all trying the best under the conditions that are available to them. But even if they were working 10 times better, then in the last 10 years we would have not hacked it 10 times, but maybe 1 time. But with a lifetime of the patient records of 100 years or so, you know, the lifetime of a patient, then you suddenly have to ask yourself how many times it's okay for this to be hacked during your lifetime. And I don't know, this is not a question that I would want to ask. So we just need a fundamental change. It's not the particular humans that are involved, it's about the conditions that they have to work with, like deadlines or political will. Is there a question up there? Yes. Do you know any other parts of the specification that the Gematik has already foreseen that attackers could abuse some parts of the specification? So we looked at this from an external perspective. These are the ones that we presented, the ones that are relevant and understandable. There are further issues on an organizational level, for example. So if you are in a privileged position within the system, then there's more. And we also did not do a full security analysis. We just took the most low-hanging fruits that we came across. So there's definitely a demand for continuing this work. Thank you. Question from the internet. How do we want to imagine transparent communication? Because the average patient doesn't really know what criteria there are. So what we can say is that this is not how it should be done. Saying things like communicating that it is safe and secure, the most secure in Europe, secure, more secure. This is not how to do it. We should communicate that for some this might be the way to go, and for some others maybe not. It's a personal evaluation that you need to do. And communicate, you know, how much effort some of these attacks would be, so that those affected better understand their risk, and whether it's worth it for them to use the electronic patient record. Microphone number 4. Thank you for the talk. So if I have data in my electronic patient record that I do not want to give to every doctor, and especially not every person in the whole wide world, how can are there any mechanisms that I can use to hide some of this data or make it required to have some additional verification to access them? So now we get to the not so fine granular access management. EPA is generally to grant access or no access. And there is a feature that you can use to hide something from everyone except you, but there is no way to allow, for example, only your dentist to see something and then something that only my immunologist can see. So this doesn't exist at the moment. So this is something that the current data protection officer is criticizing regularly at the moment. And yeah, in the access management, this use case is just not implemented at the moment. So Kelbe, our former data protection officer, requested a more fine granular access management, which was implemented in the version 2 of the electronic patient record, and it was removed again in version 3. And another question is, could this become relevant for people who are trans? Yes, of course, for people who are trans or, for example, who have HIV or some other diagnoses. So you need to. So in practice, the fact that this is even happening is only communicated, for example, in practice really, just through hanging up a poster that informs about the electronic patient record.
Next question. Can I restrict which service provider gets access to my EPA? So yes, this is possible. You can set different service providers on a deny list, but for that you have to know them. They should be available to search through the app.
Danke. Das Mikrofon 5 da hinten sehe ich noch.
Vielen Dank euch für eure Arbeit.
Thank you for your work. How realistic is it to use the EPA as an inbox? I want to pull all the information that I get from my doctors, etc. But then I want to delete everything. Is it a realistic scenario? Yes, it's possible. You can download files for yourself and delete them. And if you want to publish them in the other directions, they then don't have a signature by the doctors anymore. And also different functions in the EPA 3.0 can only be used, for example, if it's a prescription, if that was inserted by the right provider. And for the
Ich danke auch. Wir sind am Ende unserer Zeit angekommen. Es war wieder ein hervorragender Vortrag mit einer sehr, sehr spannenden Fragerunde. Vielen, vielen Dank, Bianca.
Thank you very much.